الآن we go to Brother Haqq from London, but you are in Saudi Arabia now. So please, you have 5 minutes. Try to participate on good way. Please. أرجو إعطاء المايك للدكتور عبد الحق. Can you open your mic?
Can you hear me? Is that good? Is that clear?
Yes,
thank you.
Yes, please.
Assalamu alaikum. I want to focus in the first theme, as we've seen, is on public relations and citizenship. And I think it's important to look at what a post-COVID-19 world will look like. And in doing so, we need to go a few steps back as well. In democratic societies across the world, and all societies, they provide institutions and citizenship. This can otherwise be known as legitimized identities. And in providing those provisions, those facilities, we see that education, free education, medical services, religious and moral training is provided for society. And so we generally have law-abiding citizens, as I said, legitimized identities. However, what happens when the state fails to provide or adequately deliver these services to civic society? And I think Lottie London, the Danish journalist, mentioned something very important in her speech, and that was in connection with transparency in the leadership and the communication from the government, from the state to civic society. In the event of that breaking down, and in the event of this not being clear, then we start seeing conflict from civic society at a parallel, horizontal parallel to the state. And we see a push and pull start happening between these two sectors of society. So we only have to look at what took place in Hong Kong very recently, before the pandemic took hold. And we saw peaceful protests quickly escalate due to the promises that have been broken and the response of the state. If we look in Europe, we see a similar thing happen with France, with the yellow shirts, the yellow vests, in that these peaceful protests came about due to the government, the state, raising prices of fuel, electricity, and the like, which was in breach or to the discord of civic society. Now, you may be wondering, well, why are we looking at that at the moment? Again, coming back to that comment from our Danish colleague, if there is not a transparency of leadership and a clarity of leadership in this time where lockdowns are being imposed, in this time where we're seeing fake news and conspiracy theories coming about, in this time where we're seeing some getting treatment and testing more than others, then we are likely to face civic discord. And in some regions, we are seeing this. If you look to America at the moment, we're seeing that some from the far right are marching to open up their states, to open up the economy, being supported by the president, unfortunately, and they're bearing arms. We're seeing that there are disturbances in certain other cities with regards to not complying with government and state requirements to stay at home, to self-isolate, to quarantine. So it is very important that while we're talking about the benefits that we're seeing of communication getting better, everyone being more connected via social media and appreciating common core values, we also have to take into consideration if there is a breakdown because of a lack of transparency, a lack of clear leadership on what is a very worrying, concerning. I'll just take my mic off because I think that it's about to die and I'll speak.
Can you still hear me? I'm speaking. I will speak through the speaker. So,
yeah, very good now. Yeah. Better, so much better.
Thank you. So before I draw to a conclusion, I've mentioned law-abiding civic society and citizens, legitimized identities. We have to be careful that if the state, if the government, if the agencies are not providing clear leadership, clear guidelines, that we're then going to see that legitimized identity, that good citizenship, is going to change into resistant identities. Just like we've seen, I refer again to Hong Kong, I'd refer again to France, and we can see that across other states. So what would that look like? If we see resistant identities, we will see things like disturbance of peace, illegal assembly, mass protests amongst the civil society actors. Then we will see a response from the state, which will be aggressive arrests, search and seizure, crowd control. And you'll see that trajectory moving in parallels along a horizontal plane, which can only escalate. So I will conclude that this has to be a consideration. I've heard very good speeches. I haven't understood the Arabic medium, unfortunately, but what I'm hearing are very positive speeches, and I don't mean to come with a negative perspective, but I'm here to provide a reality, because we've got to look at the context in which we are living. Are we prepared for what comes after the pandemic, if that leadership, if that transparency, if the failure to get to grip with this pandemic by our governments, by our leadership, doesn't take place? And I'll leave that there for further discussion. I think I'm within my 5 minutes. Thank you for listening. Assalamu alaikum.